Everyone, it's Nicole Spohr for Spellbinders, and today I am thrilled to share 10 cards with the July 2020 card kit of the month called Vintage Mementos. If you follow me at all, you know I don't do vintage very often, so this was a stretch for me, and I have to say it was so much fun to step outside of kind of my norm bright and colorful cards to do some more vintage type of designs. I used to play around with a lot of this stuff back in my scrapbooking days, and so it was really, really nice to take the vintage memento products and try to put my spin on them. I created 10 cards very quickly and easily. I would say one afternoon it took to make all of these. And I had a lot of interruptions. So really, I think you could recreate a lot of these in an evening. I am going to be using the new Nestabilities Essential Label Etched dies. If you have loved the rectangles and circles and ovals and squares, I think you will really love the label shape. This shape also works with the Glimmer of the Month for July 2020, so it's super versatile. We're going to be die cutting some of the Vintage Mementos pattern paper using a couple of those dies. So we have that great little dotted border and then the great label shape, of course. And then we're going to die cut a solid cardstock label to layer behind this. So it's going to peek through all of those little die cut holes. And that is the magic of that particular die. And there's several sizes of that in here, but I absolutely love that just little peak of color all the way around. So the label shape in itself, I wouldn't say it's always vintage by any means, but I think when you pair it with this kit, definitely takes on that vintage flair. I really, really love it because it's not quite that modern of the rectangles or whatever. And so it works really nicely with this kit. Now I used the die, one of the dies that comes in the card kit of the month this month. It's this great little label. I die cut the label from some of the gold mirror cardstock. I die cut the inside panel from some of the maroon reddish cardstock there in the kit. And we are going to go ahead and attach that frame to the center. So lots of layering is going to go into this particular card. I don't want to say it's my favorite card because there's several throughout this that every time I would make one I'd be, okay, this one's my favorite, or this one's my favorite. But this was the first one I made, and I really, really love it. We're going to frame up two corners then with these pretty little pre-made rose die cuts, but we need to stamp a sentiment first. So the stamp set included in the kit, I am stamping that right there on the maroon cardstock with clear embossing ink, and we're going to heat emboss with gold embossing powder. I purposely did gold because I think it's going to tie in nicely to the gold mirror cardstock. Once we have our little inside label stamped and embossed, and I do want to mention that this particular sentiment, thinking of you, there is actually a coordinating die. So if you wanted to die cut this shape and place it on your card, you could. I also re-die cut and re-stamped that sentiment. I wasn't super happy with how I stamped it. It wasn't as clean as I thought it should be. And so because I had plenty of this maroon cardstock, I did die cut that little rectangle again. I stamped it again, and the embossing is just so much better on the second one that that's the one I went with. I'm going to buff away any of that excess powder, and then we're simply going to glue our roses to the upper right corner and lower left corner. And then I did add a couple of little butterflies. And I think those are just a really fun, nice little finishing touch. We're going to pop foam adhesive underneath the wings, put liquid glue in the center of the butterfly body, and then I like to pinch them in place on my card with some craft tweezers while that liquid glue dries. But the foam adhesive underneath the wings helps kind of give those butterflies a little bit of lift, which gives them some nice movement. We're going to place this label then on a white card base that comes in the kit. I really tried to stick to the kit only. There's really only a couple of little things. This die collection for one, I grabbed that from my stash to use, and then I'm going to use some gold pearls from Fun Stamper's Journey throughout these as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, those are really the only things outside of the kit that I'm using. I have heard a lot of you say that you like to see just the kit in action, and so while I love kind of incorporating products I have on hand, I also want to some months be a little more conscious of just sharing the card kit components. So this one, pre-made die cuts. That's a 3x4 journaling card. I'm going to use this side of it. I kind of like that shape. I've got pattern paper in the background, trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4. I tucked 2 other pre-made die cuts, one underneath the top, one underneath the bottom to kind of frame that up. We are popping up the little eggs there with foam adhesive. We're going to pop up a bird die cut. There's lots of beautiful bird die cuts this month in the kit. So we're going to kind of pop our little bird here. And then I did take the Celebrate sentiment. I played around with several different ones. I couldn't exactly decide, but there were lots of options. So we're going to use Celebrate. We're going to put some foam adhesive behind that, and then pop that up along the top edge of the card. I really think this card turned out beautiful as well. I love the layering. I love the blue. I love the golds and kind of neutrals and browns and things. I think it just turned out really, really pretty. Now, I played around with some of the other embellishments from the kit, and I ultimately thought that was just a little too much. I wanted to simplify it a little more. So these are some of those gold fashion embellishments from Fun Stamper's Journey, and we're going to put one at the top and one at the bottom to finish off our second card. For our third card, it's going to be a super simple card design. So this is going to be another 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of pattern paper from the kit that we're going to place on one of the card bases. We're going to take a pre-made frame die cut. We're going to punch that center piece out, and then I had a leftover gold piece from the frame from the first card. We're going to pop that back behind this frame as a nice contrast, adhere a butterfly to the center of our frame, again foam adhesive underneath the wings and glue in the center, and then we're going to pop up Happy Birthday right underneath that with some foam adhesive. Done. So easy. This was a really, really quick and easy card, but I really love it. I almost think it looks like vintage wallpaper with a vintage gold gilded frame hanging on a wall in a house. That's what it kind of, that was my inspiration, I suppose, for that card design. Next, we are going to create this really pretty, another layered card design. This is a beautiful polka dot pattern paper from the kit, trimmed to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Then we're going to take one of the pre-made chipboard frames. We're going to place another pattern paper behind this. This one is kind of a neutral with some great gold scripty text. We have a pre-made beautiful floral and bird die cut that we're going to tuck along that bottom edge. And then the dies that come. So we are getting the frame. We're getting this great little border. So I die cut a couple of those. I have an extra, I think. I'm going to use that on another card here in a little bit. So we're going to tuck one at the top and one at the bottom. Definitely gives it a little bit of a vintage flair with the little beautiful fleur. Not really fleur-de-lis, but kind of that, you know, loopy type of shape. Fancy little border. And then we're going to pop up 2 phrases. These are pre-made phrases in that open space above our floral and bird die cut. We've got Life is Sweet and Always and Forever. Probably would make a fantastic wedding card, anniversary card, love type of card, anything like that. And then we'll finish with some little gold fashion pearl embellishments for this card as well. For my next card, I think this is card number 5, we're going to create a strip down the center of the card, which is kind of one of my go-tos for these card kits. We're going to trim a pattern paper to 3 inches by 5.5 and mat it on, or put strips of the gold mirror cardstock, whichever you want to do. If you don't want to have a ton of waste, you can always just cut little strips to put down the sides. I do it both ways and kind of frame it up, and then we're going to stamp one of the sentiments from the stamp set included in the kit. So many of my smiles begin with you. I think that's a beautiful sentiment. We're going to stamp that there in the center of the pattern paper with clear embossing ink and heat emboss with the antique gold embossing powder. And then we're going to frame this up. And another one of my kind of go-tos with the card kit is I love when they have like little floral arches or clusters, because I like to use them to frame up something, and it's usually the sentiment, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to pop up this beautiful floral cluster above and use the second one below, and then we'll even add in some great little butterfly embellishments. We're going to use 3 of the little butterflies here. We're going to pop those up with foam adhesive to give a little bit of movement, add some gold fashion pearl embellishments, and place this on a white card base kind of in the center of that card base. So we have a nice white border down each side, the gold mirror pattern paper, and then all of these pretty florals and things going on above and below the sentiment on our card. So a minute ago I had leftover gold mirror borders, and I'm going to go ahead and use those for the next card design, and we will be placing those with one of the 3x4 memory cards and some pre-made embellishments and a pre-made sentiment strip. So I've kind of grouped everything in the center of my card. The background pattern paper is 4 inches by 5.25 again. We're going to pop up our sentiment, add some gold pearls, another card done. You can really see when working with a card kit just how quick and easy you can knock out a bunch of cards to have on hand. I love kind of sitting down, especially when it's a kit and you kind of get into the flow of a certain style or design, and in this case the vintage style, you can really knock out a bunch of cards. Next, we're going to be using that label etched die again, the Nestabilities one. Got some beautiful peacock pattern paper that we have layered over some of the navy cardstock in the kit. I am using that second frame from the pre-made dies with a peacock and floral image. We're going to pop all of that up with foam adhesive. We're going to put foam adhesive back behind the happy birthday banner underneath, put some gold pearls. Done. So fast, but the addition of the beautiful border around the edge just takes it up a notch and really gives it a beautiful look. So we're going to use those dies again for the next card. In fact, I think the next 2 cards. This one again is the largest label die from there. I've die cut another frame from gold mirror cardstock, and something super fun that I just kind of happened upon by chance is that the postcard pre-made die cut will fit behind the opening in here. So it just gives a nice little vintage look back behind. I love the kind of navy and natural look of this card. I'm going to put a couple of these B pre-made die cuts popped up with foam adhesive around my frame. We're just going to place this in the center of that large label panel. we're going to stamp and emboss the Thinking of You sentiment. So this is from the stamp set included in the kit on the navy cardstock, and then die cut with the coordinating die. So one of the coordinating dies this month, that's part of the kit, will die cut this phrase. And so I opted to do that here so it shows up really well. We're going to stamp it with clear ink, heat emboss with white embossing powder, and then use that die to die cut that. So I'll show you the little die that goes with this. Let's get that heat set first. And the white on navy just shows up so well. I have some other card ideas over there to the right. I used a couple of them. I ended up not using the last one, but kind of my thought process as I'm working, I will lay out images that I think go together and think that I might want to use together. Here's that die. We're going to use a little low-tack tape that I've used a bunch of times already, so it's not very tacky, but it'll work good enough. Run that through the die cutting machine so it doesn't shift. We're going to glue that down in place right there in the center of our label. And our cute little Thinking of You B card is going to be all finished. So I am going to use that same die set again as I mentioned here a minute ago, but this time we're going to use the next size down, which is going to leave us with a lot more space around the focal center point of our card. So I'm actually going to use 2 different pattern papers and a different cardstock color from the kit. There's a light pale pink, and it looks really, really pretty behind one of the floral pattern papers in the kit, and then paired with one of the maroon tone-on-tone pattern papers from the kit. I absolutely love how this turned out. I think it's super elegant, very, very pretty. We're going to glue 2 butterflies kind of to that label, and then use 2 different pre-made die-cut sentiments. Celebrate Today for You. Pop those up with foam adhesive. That card is going to be all finished. And we just have one more card. Can you believe it? We are almost at the end of our 10 cards for the month, this month. I couldn't believe how fast these came together. I know I mentioned this earlier in the video, but this is not my go-to style. And so I thought, oh, it's going to be a stretch for me. I just really wasn't sure. And once I got into it, I can't tell you guys how much fun I had just stepping outside of my comfort zone and trying something new. I think it's a really good reminder to everybody that sometimes just trying a new style or a new product or whatever it might be is really good to stretch our creative muscles. I'm using 2 different pattern papers again. We've got this great like little postage and distressed one, the music notes paper, some gold mirror paper. We're doing a lot of layering. And then I am a huge fan of repetition. It doesn't matter which month it is, which club kit it is, or card kit of the month it is. I like repetition, and you probably noticed that if you follow my card kits. I like to group things together. So I'm grouping together these 4 feathers. We're just going to have them kind of going every other up or down, and or every other, I mean the blue, natural, blue, natural. And we're going to layer a sentiment through the center of this, and then some gold pearl gems, and that's literally it, but so pretty and elegant. Pre-made die cuts make this card kit and make creating cards with the kit very quick and easy. So that is it for this month, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for my 10 cards created with the July 2020 card kit of the month from Spellbinders called Vintage Mementos. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Spellbinders club kits that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.